Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm a Ukrainian, and I have decided I will vlog daily from my country Ukraine since the start of this awful war with Russia. And in my daily videos I try to update you on the important real-life situations in my country Ukraine, and of course I'm always glad to answer your questions and to clarify some facts from our history, culture, background, or whatever interests you. And today I want to speak a little bit about the future of my country, about the guarantees for safety and defense for Ukraine, and of course about possible negotiations with Russia. First of all, the success of Ukrainian counter-offensive operation, many liberated cities, and morale of Ukrainian people persuaded the world that Ukraine will win this war. With the support of our allies, of course, but I think that people do not doubt anymore that this war was a mistake of Putin. And it is worse than a crime, it is a mistake, something like that. There is a famous quote, and I think it pretty well illustrates the decision of Putin to start this full-scale war with Ukraine in February 22, and also to start any kind of war with Ukraine back in 2014. And today, after so many losses and failures in Ukraine, sometimes we hear the ideas of negotiations from the Russian side, but we today negotiate with them on the battlefield. Most importantly, a very symbolic thing is that we do not see any advice coming from European leaders or global leaders advising Ukraine to start negotiations and to save Putin's face as it was just a couple of months ago. Well, perhaps because seeing the crimes of Putin's army here in Ukraine, and also realizing that Ukrainians are strong and not going to give up any piece of the territory, any part of cultural identity, is very also important. And this strength made others believe that we can win this war, we must win this war, and a huge gratitude to our allies. So now, as negotiations continue on the battlefield, we do understand, and our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kuleba, also speaks about that one day we will sit at the table, but maybe this will not be a Putin's regime, it's someone different who will come to run Russia after their failure in this war. Also, it is important to understand that we have to speak from the position of power, and the more places and territories are liberated, the more arguments we have, because right now there are no signs that Russians are eager to return back outside legitimate borders of Ukraine, live in all the territory, including annexed Crimea, Donbass and Luhansk, for Ukraine as it should be according to all international laws. So right now it is important to become stronger, to get more support from our friends all over the world, to train how to use modern weapons and to use them on Russian orcs. And that's why various discussions about the future system of defense and safety for Ukraine and global security in the world are very, very important. And recently there was one of the meetings discussed with the former NATO head, and the result, the first draft of this document, was presented to President Zelensky, and these guarantees of safety for Ukraine, they seem normal, they don't seem weak anymore. And most importantly for me, as for Ukrainian who supports the pro-NATO direction, is the fact that these guarantees of security for Ukraine do not exclude Ukrainian membership in NATO. And that is important, because I am sure, I know that there are many jokes and many good people say that we can teach NATO a lot, but at the same time NATO teaches us a lot, especially NATO countries, maybe not an alliance joint, but NATO countries, all that weapons, all that trainings that we need come from NATO, and we realize that, and this will be important materially, ideologically and symbolically to become a part of NATO one day. And I'm sure that Ukraine will be able to bring many useful things for the alliance too. So these guarantees that were discussed and demonstrated to President Zelensky, first of all, state that Ukrainians need strong armed forces forever, because living close to Russia, we need that strong armed forces forever. No time to relax, and good it or bad it, we have to be a strong military country. This is just the opposite to what Putin wished starting this war. Secondly, there must be lots of trainings with NATO, European Union and other strong military alliances to keep Ukrainian armed forces in the best possible shape. And this is what I also like. Another thing is that all of these guarantees must be fixed judicially and politically, because Ukraine has already made a mistake with Budapest Memorandum when we gave up our nuclear weapons and were supposed to receive protection from countries, including our friend and rather Russia. But we see how it all turned out, and the Budapest Memorandum was definitely a huge mistake. Among the countries that will provide the support for Ukraine, of course, our traditional allies, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Germany, France, Baltic countries, and Northern Europe countries. I'm not going to enumerate all of them, but today we can pretty well see that who are our friends, who are our allies, and there are many of them. And once again, Ukrainians are very, very grateful for that support and understanding that some things you have to suffer to go through just because this war continues. But once again, I have to stress, it is not the choice of Ukrainians. We never wanted this war to start, but after Putin has decided to ruin all the international agreements, we have to protect our land, because if we don't stop him here, he will continue. And it was not my dream to live on a battlefield, but we don't have a choice, and that's why I'm really grateful for those of our friends and allies who understand that sometimes the prices can go higher, some problems may appear, but we have to do it because this fight is really, really important. And any negotiations or ideas about the changes of the size of Ukraine, its borders, of course, they have to be prohibited and not supported by any normal sane other country, government or whatever. And I think that the draft of these ideas is pretty good. And for me, once again, it is important that it does not deny the entrance of Ukraine to NATO, joining NATO. It is just another half. And more Ukrainians realize that we have to become a military state. I cannot tell you that is my dream, because we don't plan to attack anybody. But having Russia as a neighbor, we have to be ready to protect ourselves and to protect the rest of the world, because that's what life is when Putin or people like him are there. And I cannot imagine like a normal political leader in Russia, not because I have bad imagination, but because I have never witnessed that in the recent history. I mean, like hundreds of years. So anyway, thank you for your support that you demonstrate to my country, Ukraine, for standing with it. If you like my videos, please demonstrate it with your thumbs up. Provide me ideas for my future blogs in the comments. And of course, subscribe to the channel, because I believe the world needs to know more about Ukraine, its history, traditions, and of course, the war in Ukraine that was not our choice, but the war that we must win with your help. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons, and traditionally, Slava Ukraini!